Hi, I'm Ryan from Bigger Hammer Workshop. This is Mable, and you're watching the Restoration Project. So it's been a while since I posted my last video. Just been getting caught up with work and whatnot. However, in the meantime, I have purchased another MX-5. I will be doing that as a track car. No longer seeing road, that needs some rust repair and a few bits and bats doing to it. Unfortunately, I won't be filming the process of doing the track car because that is currently at work and not a lot of film there. I don't have room for it here to do it with everything that's going on with Mable. However, to save Mable's brakes and suspension from just being sitting in a box for quite a while I do everything to her, we are going to remove them today, put them in a box, and I can put them on the track car. When it comes to putting Mable back together, might leave them on track car and get new suspension for Mable, or vice versa. So yeah, in this episode we'll be tackling taking out the coilovers and the discs and pads off of Mable. Two fairly straightforward jobs, especially now that I've got the wings off the car. It does make it a lot easier to get the coilovers out. But yeah, let's crack on. Right, so first things first we're going to do is tackle the brakes. Obviously get the disc off, caliper off. Start by getting caliper off. There is two bolts here, so the bottom one that's here is 17mm and the top one that's here is a 14mm. Just going to want to whip both of them out. So that's the top one mostly out. Just give them a wiggle and they do come out. Just thread them back into where they go. I can set the caliper off to the side. So take my pads out, they've still got plenty of life left on them. I will tape them together and label them up, and then down the back, I'm not sure if you can see the lighting in the best, we've got a bolt here and a bolt up here. They are both, I check now, I think they're both 14, yep, both 14 mils. They all just carry her on. That's one. And that's two. And yet again, just thread these bolts back into the corresponding holes like that, and then disc just comes off, and that's how we remove front discs and pads. Right, so around the other side of the car now to do fronts. Same again. Bottom one. So just popping my bolts back into where they come from, and that's your second side of brakes off. Just check wheel bearing, yeah, it's sound. Right, so we're now at the rear of the car, ready to take off the rear caliper. This is a hell of a lot simpler than the front, not that the front's that hard, So if we come down here, you can see there's a little bung here. We just take that off. There's a 10mm nut underneath it. At that point you just swing your caliper up. Now on the top here is a slider pin. You just swing the caliper up from the bottom and push it back and we're off. So little bung off. $10mm. Once you get so far it comes out by hand, it's just a little slider bolt. Like I say, you can just wiggle, might need a bit of leverage. Try and get it from make sure. Make sure your handbrake's off, and then you will be able to move it. And it comes off just like that. Your pads can come out. Try to keep hold of these retaining springs. Keep hold of your fitting kit, and then with a bit of persuasion your disc should come off. Oh, a bit more. So on the back here, there's just another two 14mm bolts to hang the carrier on. Drop them back into there. Pop that bottom slider pin back in your carrier. As well, I did think I would have been able to get the disc off without removing that. Sometimes you might just need a rubber hammer to get them off. I mean, if you're not saving the discs, by all means, just crack them with a big metal lump hammer. I'm just going to go grab something to knock them off a bit safer, so I don't warp them with me reusing them. So couldn't find my rubber dead blow hammer, nor could I find my lump hammer. Think they're both in the house for some reason. So the other way to get them off safely is just a little block of wood, and for some reason I do have an axe. Just a little tap, and they come off. So at the rear driver's side now, we're just going to do the same again. Little cap off. $10mm slider. That out. Slide it off. Retaining clips. Now these are an absolute nightmare to put back in, but I would always advise putting them in, because what they do is when you've applied your brake and you let go, they just push your pads back off your disc just that little bit, so it's not making a constant contact. Definitely worth having in there. And there we go. That's all discs and pads off car, ready to go onto the track car. Next we'll start with suspension. Probably going to do the fronts first. They're the easier ones, and then we'll tackle the back. Can be a bit more complicated on rear, but not overly. Right, so for the front suspension, you can see in here, so all we're going to remove is two 12mm nuts on the top hat here and here. Mind the wiring harness, that's what I've already removed. Then back here we've got a 21mm nut at the end of this upper control arm, same on this side. However, this bolt does go all the way through. So if, like me, you have had to change out your anti-roll bar link bolts because they've snapped at some point, I never cut mine down, so we will have to just drop these a little bit. And then we've got a 17mm bolt at the bottom that goes all the way through on either side. Drop that out, it should all come towards us and we should just be able to take the suspension strut straight out. So start by taking out that 21mm, because I know that that is a pain. No, what I will take out the 13s. So I don't know about you guys, but every now and then I do forget I've got power tools. Make my life a little bit easier. speeds the job up. So now I can probably even get in there with an extension on end of my gun. Get my spanner on that side. So that's that bolt. So just, you will have some washers on the end, some big ones with some little washers. Do make sure that you keep them and keep them in the orientation that they are in as well. But now you can slide this bolt all the way out. Make sure we... Now you might find that that bolt is really tight. You can always put a bit of heat on it to help it come out a bit. I've obviously had this suspension off before to have it all powder coated. So it wasn't too bad for me because I've greased it before. So now I'm going to drop out bottom strut. Yet again, if there's any washers or on there, do keep them together. And then just quickly zip up top. Move them two top hat nuts, and I'm hoping should be able to pull this down. And then give it a wiggle straight out at top. Suspension. Put your nuts back on where they came from. And like I said earlier, if you just remember to pop your nuts and bolts either in bags labelled at what they're for, but the best thing you can do is just whip them back on. That way you know what orientation they're in. This big bolt back here I'm not going to bother popping back through because don't really need to. I know what that bolt's for because it's big and long and there's only one bolt like that. I don't care. Technically two if you count other side, but yeah. Right, going to whip round to the other side and do that as well. Right, so we're on passenger side front now, and yet again it's all the same but on the other side. So I'm gonna drop these out. That's that one out. And get us extension in onto there. And there's 21mm spanner on that side. Oh. That one seems to have been a bit tighter, but nevertheless is off. Sometimes if it is just a little bit coming out, you can use a spanner just to push on the head of that bolt. And that's why this one was tighter coming out. Looks like someone forgot to grease it. That would be me when putting it back in. But, you know, it happens. Not the end of the world, considering it has come out. So on this side is when I first ever did some suspension work on this car. This bolt that snapped, so I did have to put in a new bolt, so I'll just need to get another different size spanner and socket. I believe there were 19s. Yep. However, the good thing about these new bolts that I put in, and I probably will go to this style all the way around when I go in, is that they have got a nylock nut on them, so they are a bit more secure. Bit of a bigger thread pitch, although that bolt seems to have seen better days, but can't worry a sense about that yet. We can always chuck new bolts in when we rebuild it. So there we go, that's all bolts out. Give it a wiggle down. And a wiggle up, and there we go. So that's both front suspension struts out. Now don't get me wrong, it is a lot easier when you've got coilovers compared to the standard suspension, because obviously these have been adjusted so that they are that little bit lower, which obviously makes the suspension strut itself shorter. So I don't have to pull down as much to get it out. When I first did suspension on this car, like I say, I had a few trouble with bolts, a few other bits went wrong, and personally I just weren't as good a mechanic as I am now. I'd only ever really been a hobbyist. And when I did the suspension the first time round, I think that was the first ever time that I'd taken on suspension work. So it took me nearly a full day to do it, to change 2 struts, I think it was. Obviously now I'm a bit more competent. I wouldn't say I'm an expert by any means, but definitely more competent than I used to be. To be up so, considering I do it for a living. But yeah, so just bear in mind that if you have got standard struts and you are switching to coilovers, there can be a pain to get your standard struts out. So I'm going to move to the back now. Probably going to do the back driver side first, as that one's the easiest, and then we'll move on to the passenger rear and get that one out. Right, so at the back side of the car now. So just a couple of things to make note of. Up in your boot, because your top hat's down here for your driver side. You need to get 2 12mm on that. And for your passenger side, you are going to have to remove this panel, and this one is a bit more difficult to get to because you've got fuel lines in the way. but we'll get to that when we do that side. So coming now underneath, I'm going to torch in so we can see. If I remember rightly, it's this nut underneath here that you want to do, and then there's your 17mm just in there. Now there is a captive nut on the other side of that, so if you are lucky you can just buzz that out, or with a ratchet. However, they do like to snap a lot of the time, so sometimes we have to cut in a little relief like we have on this one, and you can get a 17mm spanner up the back onto the nut, and then it's just a case of yet again pulling down, pulling out. Obviously I've already dropped all the diff oil on this car, so if I do pull it and the shaft comes out of the diff, it's not the end of the world. However, if you did want to pull it all forward, you could always take off this centre nut here, I think it's 32mm, just push the shaft out a little bit. That way when you pull it all forward and down, it doesn't pull it out. There may also be a chance that we need to remove this drop link here, just to, because of the anti-roll bar, might hold this leg up a bit. We might get away with it, we might not, we'll see. Right, so first thing I'm going to do on this one is get that bottom shocker bolt out, because I know that one can be a pain. So like I say, just 17mm through bottom onto the side. Should then just should be able to get that out. Like I say, it's a square nut on the back of it. There is meant to be a captive holding that on, but you'll probably find that if your bolt is a bit seized or anything like that, that captive just will break. You're then going to have to cut a little bit out of your lower suspension arm. It's not the end of the world, don't go too crazy with it, just enough to get your spanner in, then you can get onto that bolt. So then it is a, looking at it, I'm just going to say it's a 14, I can't properly remember. Yep, so for that upper control arm bush, it's 14 either side. So just a little tip for you as well, if you can, always put your gun on the nut side rather than the bolt side, because you've always got more chance of breaking it if you're putting your gun onto the bolt, or at least so I've found anyway. I've broken a few bits in my time. Might just need something to lever that bush out, then you should be able to pull that down. I'll just go quickly whip them top hat nuts off, see if I can get the camera to get a good view of that in there. So I won't be able to get my gun in for that one, but just try and alter this camera a bit. There we go, but I should be able to get my ratchet in. On the other side, I highly doubt we'll get the gun in at all. Just because of them fuel lines, but a couple of extensions and wobbly bits, and we we should be able to do it. So there we go, that's dropped. Now I did drop the other nut for that, whether it's fallen through onto the floor or I might just need a little magnet to get it afterwards. But so now we're at the point of getting the actual shocker out. This bit's always the hard bit where you end up needing leverage because the top hat does have to drop down quite a bit. So this is where you either need to remove your shaft, drop the anti-roll bar link off, which I believe is a 14 on either side. Probably just do that to make my life that little bit easier. And then there we go. It's dropping itself down because of the weight that's on it. Give it a wiggle. That's another suspension strut out. Probably just for the time being. Lift this back up and into this bush here. Like I say, just trying to keep your nuts and bolts where they go. Screwdriver can help you locate a few bits. Like I say, that way you just know where your bits are going. This one I'm not putting it all the way through. I'm just gonna drop it through. There's a little hole just into the centre. Just put your nut and bolt on a few threads. There you go, that's the driver side, rear suspension arm. Rear suspension strut out, label that up, move around to the other side, and we'll do that one. Right, so like I said earlier, there's a couple of bolts to take out on this rear frame here. So there's one here, one down here, one here, and one just off to the side in there. Pretty sure that's all of them. They are just 10 mils. So we'll just zip them out. Try not to lose them, and then might just be stuck to your carpet a little bit like mine were. Move that off over to the side. Now with these BC coilovers you can get extra remote lines because obviously, as you can imagine, when it does come to adjusting them on the fly, especially when you're setting it up or at a track you want them to be a bit stiffer or a bit softer, you don't want to be taking that off every time I reach down here and adjust them. So I bought this remote line, just cable tied it to that. You can then turn them, adjust them and whatnot. Obviously on the track car, that metal panel won't be there, so I could just reach back and get them. So I will remove the remote line once it's out, but I do just need to snip that cable tie off. Or seeing as though I can't find my cutters, I think they're in my towing box. Cut it off with a tie wrap. So while I'm up here, I am gonna take them 12 mils off. A short extension does help, especially in this area. You need to be able to get in onto them. Because you don't have a lot of movement in here because of them fuel filler lines. But like I say, I'm lucky that I've already done these, so they're not super tight, they're not super seized on, and you can get to them. So obviously mine, once I've cracked them off, they are just finger tight. You might have a bit more of a issue, like I say, especially if you're removing factory ones, as they can be tight all the way up. But there we go, so that's the top hat off. So now we're going to move down to the strut and just do the same as what we did on the other side. Right, so now that them strut bolts are out, we'll tackle that 17 mil again first, just because that one is the one that tends to have issues. So the captive nut on this side for me is still working, so if you're very lucky, both your captive nuts will be sound, and you can go ahead and just remove them. So drop that out as well. Looks like at some point, don't remember doing it, but I've had to put a new bolt in that drop link. So that were a 17 for that side, but that isn't the standard size. The standard size is still the 14, and we'll drop this top one out here. And we're a bit tighter. And then just give it that bit of a lever down. Should come right out. And there we go. It's another suspension strut out, so we'll just lift it back up. We'll just put that drop link one in first, because that seems to be the one that goes in easiest without having to locate, and then we can get his screwdriver in there, pop that top bolt back in just to hold it, and then whip that 17 back in, just a couple of threads, just so, like I say, you know where it goes. Not sure whether I'm going to keep this extender on or not yet. For the track car, I think it'd be pretty easy for me to get it from without the extender. But yeah, label this up, put it away. We've now got us box of bits for suspension struts, discs, pads, a couple of other little bits that are in there that I need to do on car, bit of filler and whatnot for hard top. I never run a hard top on Mable because I do like driving with roof down. However, for track car, hard tops are lighter than your soft top setup, so the soft top will be coming out on that, and I'll be running a permanent hard top. Right, so that's the brakes and suspension off of Mable to go onto the track car. That is all I am doing today. Probably going to go edit this video now. It has only taken me a couple of hours. That is including having a little rest in between and little bits like that. So that is the end of this video. If you are enjoying the content that I'm putting out, do like, subscribe, everything else that all the other YouTubers say. And that's it from the Bigger Hammer Workshop. See you in the next one.